a wonderful place existed.
The Athenians called it the Acropolis. Free expression, ethics, art, philosophy. The Acropolis heralded the democracy. But if I told you the Acropolis has returned. Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
I'm an American. I like my cars fast and my burgers delicious. But what I also like is the government to get a warrant before it violates my rights. And that's why I trust NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the most affordable VPNs out there with a wide listing range of features, including features that help boost your computer's overall speed and performance, which with the internet here, God knows, not only do I need and use, but the thing is, there is a good chance that you both need and could use a VPN yourself. So why not help the channel out? Click the affiliate link down below in the description and get yourself one of the best VPNs out there at the most affordable price. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the show. Usually on the Trevor Report, or at least the past couple of days, I have been ending on a white pill, but today I'm beginning with a white pill. What to know about New York, about major New York Second Amendment case in Supreme Court ruling. Basically, it says it in the first sentence right here. The Supreme Court struck down a New York gun law regulating concealed carry in one of the biggest gun rights cases in over a decade on Thursday. The closely watched case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. v. RHINO, addressed whether New York State's concealed carry law violates the Second Amendment. Its most significant case regarding the Second Amendment since the High Court affirmed the right to bear arms with its 2010 decision rendering Chicago's nearly 30-year ban on handgun ownership unconstitutional. That's right, Chicago tried to ban handguns 10 years ago. They actually tried to do this and they failed. Quote, there's been a big push to get more Second Amendment cases before the courts because many people believe that the lower courts were not being faithful to the Supreme Court's decision in 2010 saying that states, as well as the federal government, were restricted by the Second Amendment. Seth Chandler, a professor at University Houston Center who teaches constitutional law, told ABC News, quote, the Supreme Court for the past 10 years or so has not just placed that hot-button issue on its docket, but now with this New York State Rifle and Pistol v. Braun case, they've accepted those challenges. Now, in this ABC News article, they have this protest outside the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, at least the outside of it, is currently packed with people because a bunch of leftists are trying to intimidate the judges, and they're doing it at their homes and their place of work. They could do it at their place of work, and that's because they're part of the government, and that's their First Amendment right, but they're doing it at the homes, and that's a felony, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, like, this must be a really, really, really old image right here, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, it's essentially five people, five old people, five old white people, and what they're doing with this image, or I guess this image is a year old because it says 2021, is they're basically trying to insinuate that only evil racists or whatever want the gun
or whatever. And there's a lot of ways you can interpret it, but the point is when they use this image, they're not being faithful. Though there are some signs on there with some pretty persuasive arguments, but nevertheless, they're not being very faithful. May issue states. The case brought forth by the NRA affiliate New York State Rifle and Pistol Association focused on a century-old New York state law that requires gun owners to show proper cause to carry a handgun in public for self-defense. Basically, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of constitutional carry all across the board, all across the United States. This Supreme Court ruling regarding New York's law has essentially concluded beyond a shadow of a doubt that states like my state, California, we are a may issue state, right? The government may issue us permission, right? They may grant or issue us permission to exercise our constitutional rights. Well, that's been declared unconstitutional. That's always good. Biden calls for a 3-month suspension on federal gas tax, but Congress might not approve it. So basically, what Biden is doing is essentially window dressing with this. Now, here's the thing. I don't know why a 3-month suspension on, if the goal is to lower prices, a 3-month suspension on gas tax is going to temporarily lower prices. So how about, just not having a federal gas tax? The only reason you would have a federal gas tax is to coerce human beings who have to get from point A to point B to drive less, which isn't good for the economy, but above all, it's not good for people. A federal gas tax is frankly not a good law. What if you can't afford gas and you have to take your mom or whatever, your pregnant wife or whatever to the hospital? Oh, I forgot to fill up the tank. In fact, I couldn't fill up the tank because gas was too expensive because of the gas tax. So it's obviously not the case that the gas tax is the reason why gasoline is so expensive. It is the supply of gasoline to the United States that is the problem. Okay, that is the reason why the gas prices are so high, and it's because of I almost said Obama. It's because of Biden's policies regarding this. Okay, which has been a failure all across the board. Literally day one, he canceled the Keystone Pipeline, which if we had the Keystone Pipeline, we would have been producing more barrels of oil per day than we imported from Russia. Okay, I forget the exact number, but I covered it a long time ago, about a year ago. All previous Trevor reports linked down below in the description. But it's just one of those things where it's just there's someone on the left says that just doesn't reflect reality, and then there's things that people on the left do that just doesn't reflect reality. Feds raid home of top Trump official who tried to take over Department of Justice to declare election illegitimate. I don't remember that happening. I was following this very closely at the time that this happened. I don't remember this, and it's not that I don't remember this in the sense that I absorbed information of it previously, and it's now, and I've forgotten it, and now but it's kind of familiar to me. That's not what's happening right now. What's happening right now is this just doesn't seem to have happened in reality, but nevertheless, Jeffrey Clark lobbied to have Trump appoint him as acting attorney general so he could block his Georgia loss. ABC News reports that federal agents conducted a search of Clark's home in Virginia on Wednesday morning, just one day before the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riots. There's a reason why the corporate press is saying riot instead of insurrection, but was due to highlight his role in the attempt to overturn the election. By the way, overturning the election, there is a constitutional process to that, and the rioters at the Capitol interfered with that process, and they were also rioting like before Trump even finished his speech, like in the rotunda in D.C., miles away from the Capitol building. That was where the riots were going on. So I don't know, but there's also, you could take a look at the link, at the hyperlink at the evidence. That's salon.com sites, and it says page not found, page unavailable, which means it was either removed because of some kind of retraction for maybe C News, or it's a shock of all shocks, salon.com is misframing something in some way. We have this from The Hill. FBI seizes Nevada GOP chairman's phone as a part of a fake elector probe. Basically, in Nevada in 2020, when there was malfeasance in the 2020 election, and my evidence of this malfeasance is Time Magazine. And in their words, the secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. I kid you not, I've already read this article almost a dozen times. I've probably read this about three, four times, about at least 80% of the way through. So I'm not going to do it again, but if you see it on screen, click up a link down below in the description. All previous Trevor reports, link down below in the description. You get the point. I say that all the time. But basically, this is a thing that has happened in multiple elections. People have objected to to the certification of electoral votes over instances. It's outlined in the Constitution. The vice president does have the authority to do it, to create debates regarding those challenges if he wants to, and all of that is fine, but it's this framing, and this framing basically assumes that you haven't read the Constitution, which is ridiculous, because why wouldn't Americans read the Constitution? Well, I know why Americans read the Constitution. They're too busy watching Netflix and eating burgers. But I rest my case on the fact that this is what they did. They created in Nevada, the legislator in Nevada, the GOP legislator in Nevada were like, okay, we believe that there is some malfeasance with our own electoral votes. We're going to submit these instead. We're going to submit these along with the other things in case there is a challenge. And all of this is constitutional because if it was the other way around, let's create this hypothetical. Let's say Trump, because this is the standard that I'm currently using right now. If Trump won and Biden lost with all of these irregularities that went on throughout the 2020 election. And by the way, there were irregularities in the 2020 election because it was the first election in U.S. history where we had universal mail-in voting in all 50 states during a pandemic. So, like, a greedy, evil, corrupt shadow campaign, as Time Magazine put it, would probably commit some kind of exploiting. And there's a website that I've talked about before. If you want to know, there's a website, a data aggregate. It's a very Web 1.0, and it's not formatted very well. But to be fair, it hasn't been made by a professional web developer or whatever. It just seems to have been made by I guess a concerned citizen. There's not a lot of dark money going into these kind of things, but you can just kind of look at it for yourself. It's the corporate press. It has Politico, ballotpedia.org, whitehouse.gov, right? let's see. And then there's some like just clips of videos and corporate press, Twitter posts, and corporate press institutions and outlets. The Washington Post shows up here. The New York Times shows up here. Reuters shows up here. Review Journal. There's all sorts of, it's just a data aggregate of things, and you can believe it or don't believe it. People who believe that the things regarding the 2020 election, right? There's three ways you could do it. You can investigate it and come up to the neutral view of it, or you could say that the 2020 election was the most secure election in our nation's history, which means that all of the other elections were somehow more open to the possibility of corruption than the 2020 election. Which, okay, fine. Then there's the second possibility, which is that the other extreme of it, which is that you cannot ever trust the United States election ever again. Or you can have the middle view, the neutral view of it, that during unprecedented times, unprecedented things occurred. Wow, big shock. But anyway, I'm not going to focus on this too longer. The only reason this Jan 6 stuff is going on because it's basically just tribal nonsense, because we are in the he said she said phase of the Civil War. We're in the reasons to separate, to get divorced phase of Civil War. That's always fun. But let's continue to something else that's fun. Pride Month is going on, but according to LAUSD, queer and trans affirming school calendar, we got Pride Year. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, and June. In August, student supports in starting a GSA or Rainbow Club. And then we have in September, where we have the red salute with a little bit of black nationalism sprinkled onto it as part of the image. Prep for next month's Solidarity Week and teach LGBT inclusive curriculum all year, September. October, LGBT History Month. Attend LAU Steinfeld's Standing with LGBTQ Students Conference, October 11th through 16th. November, schedule a PD with a human relations, diversity, and equity. So schedule some corporate nonsense with your local black nationalist. In December, and then we have the pride flag with the separate but equal racial pride stripes. Post LGBTQ affirming signs in your office classrooms and around campus. December. January, hold a Jazz and Friends reading event and read inclusive books in every grade. I don't know what jazz has to do with having the correct sexuality and being a part of the correct race, but whatever, fine. Participate in the capital B Black Lives Matter in Schools Week of Action. March. Review your school practices to ensure everyone's name and gender pronouns are affirmed. Make sure you address your feudal lords properly. In April, hold a workshop for parents, caregivers about SOGI and promote HRDE's support groups. In May, address any gender or sexuality-based teasing, bullying, and conflict restoratively. Make sure that not only do they adhere to the proper terminology for which you address your feudal lords properly, but that they also do not have any negative feelings or negative opinions towards their betters. In June, celebrate Pride Month with literature, art, music, poster campaigns, or lunchtime events. This is what happens when you believe that the personal is political, right? When you believe that the personal is political, then you end up getting to a point where you just can't have anything for yourself, and everything is absolutely inclusive of absolutely everything in all places and all times. And it's going to go downhill. We're going to have pretty soon it's going to get to a point where we are going to have we are going to have Pride decade, and then Pride millennia, and then Pride and then 1,000-year Pride Reich at some point. But anyway, let's ending it on a low note because anyway. Liz Cheney is sending mail to Wyoming Democrats with instructions on how to switch parties to vote for her in state's August primary. This is what people call a RHINO. But I don't use the term like RHINO, except for when it suits me. No. This is what's called the neocon neolib Uni-Party. See, the Democrats in recent years have become more and more in favor of bombing kids because the Democrats and people in the left in general have abandoned all of the anti-war stuff because Trump was anti-war. And don't you know, Trump is a meanie, bigot, fascist man who doesn't like war and government infringing on people's rights and the death of babies. He's against all of those things. He's also the most pro-LGBTQ Republican ever, but whatever. The point is, Liz Cheney is a part of this Uni-Party. She wants to bomb kids, and Democrats, the way they've been in favor of sending weapons and other things to Ukraine, it seems to be that Democrats more and more, or people who vote Democrat, which I'm going to charitably refer to as socialists, they seem to be more and more in favor of war. And Liz Cheney is a part of the Cheney family, and the Cheney family is in favor of war. And, we're going to look forward to bombing kids. Instead of in the Middle East, we're going to be bombing kids in Eastern Europe because the establishment is terrible and we need to primary these evil Republicans and these evil Democrats. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. In the meantime, my name is Trevor Brown, and you've just watched the Trevor Report. Do click the Linktree that I was forced to make down below in the description because Linktree banned my Linktree, so I made my new one down below in the description.
I'm an American. I like my cars fast and my burgers delicious. But what I also like is the government to get a warrant before it violates my rights. And that's why I trust NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the most affordable VPNs out there with a wide listing range of features, including features that help boost your computer's overall speed and performance, which with the internet here, God knows, not only do I need and use, but the thing is, there is a good chance that you both need and could use a VPN yourself. So why not help the channel out? Click the affiliate link down below in the description and get yourself one of the best VPNs out there at the most affordable price. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the show. The Trevor Report is sponsored by Acropolis News Network, the world's first fully independent media organization powered by peer-to-peer advertising, Liberty platforms, and cryptocurrency. On Acropolis, on theacropolisnews.com, we have a different standard of journalism. We adhere to the Nicomedean ethics as outlined by Aristotle, and unlike a traditional show, what we have at Acropolis News Network is a decentralized network of fully independent online content creators. You can go to where to watch/chat/support over on theacropolisnews.com, where we have a bunch of information where you can contact Acropolis News Network and even engage with the wider audience of the Acropolis. And we also have a premium subscription, and with this premium subscription you can get access to a ton of cool features. Cool features like an entire series where not only do I break down the best arguments of critical race theory, I also go over how to defeat those arguments and a counter narrative specifically for integrationists in order to counter the cultural colonization that critical race theorists engage in. I also have this article that I just put out there where it's basically I analyze time travel as a concept, and I go through and I draw on Michael Oakeshott and Aristotle in order to navigate a way through determining the validity of time travel without going into the science of it, and actually going into why going into the science of it is kind of pointless. So if you want to check those out, do get a premium subscription, and in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the show.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
All of you brilliant viewers out there, my name is Trevor Brown. I am the editor-in-chief of Acropolis News Network because I can give myself whatever name and title I want because I own it. You could go to theacropolisnews.com or you could go to ThisJustTrevor on whatever Liberty platform is your choice. You know, except for the ones I'm not on because I haven't seen them pretty much.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.